Bole Baba Ki Jai. Welcome to another satsang at the Hedekun Universal Ashram in Crestone, Colorado, and I'm Ramloti. And I'm so grateful to be here, part of our beautiful spring Navaratri, and that Babaji has sent some of his old ganas, his people that have been with him for many, many years to participate in the Navaratri. So last satsang you met Nath, who was with Baba since 81. And today we also had the joy of having Kharku here from Thailand or wherever he might be internationally living right now, who met Babaji in 1977.
February 77.
I'm going to turn it over to you, Kharku, to start. What do you think you would like to share?
Well, Bole Baba Ki Jai. First of all, I would like to say it's incredible to be here with you all. It is such a heart-opening experience to be here. I want to thank you, Ramloti, for what you do, really. Yesterday you asked me a question about the temple and about the murti and things.
Oh, yes.
And I thought, you might ask me another question, but I thought I would tell you a little story that I'm sure you must know. But in 1984, when Babaji took his samadhi, and Muniraji was suddenly sitting in this position of great authority. That was a little shaky in the beginning, but with the love of the devotees, Muniraji pulled it together, traveled to the west, invited everybody to come to the Navaratri in Chilianola, and put us to work like madmen. I had some of my first tussles with Muniraji because we had to double the size of the accommodation at Chilianola in a couple of months. We had to paint the whole lot. We had to be ready for anything and for everything. And I think that was the first time we had somewhere close to 1,000 people, including mostly foreigners, coming. It was that first year when Babaji had left. And we had a wonderful Navaratri. At the end of the Navaratri, when everybody was leaving, so the 9 days had been over, and then the 10th day, Muniraji would always take a bus trip, and we'd take people to the cave, Baba's cave, where miracles had happened in the past, and Dronagiri, and then on the next day, people started to really leave. All the busloads of, like Sandra Ray brought a group, and a lady from Texas brought a group, and some European people brought groups, and Muniraji said to me, Kharku, there's one lady here that I didn't meet. Please find her before all the buses leave. Do you know this story?
No, I don't.
And I went, as I do, running around looking, and I'm running in and out of buses. Buses were filled with people, and there was this lady from Texas, and forgive me for names because I don't remember some of the names. But the lady from Texas who brought a group said, oh, this lady, I can't remember her name, I'm sorry. She got sick when we arrived in Delhi, and we came all the way to Chilianola, and she's been in the girls' dormitory the entire time. She never even went in the temple. I said, I think Muniraji wants to meet you. And so I took her back to Muniraji's room. And Muniraji was staying at that time, he didn't have his house yet. And we had always stayed at this kind of little tent thing in the garden. And this time he actually had a room in the dormitory area. And Alok was there, Raghu Pujari, Kali Shani were there. I think there might have been one or two other people there, but I don't remember. And I thought you were there somehow.
I was there that year, but not in that room.
But not in that room. So Muniraji said, Kharku, make us tea. And I made all the tea, and I came back and served everybody tea. And Muniraji was chatting with this girl, where are you from? And, just all the normal day-to-day stuff. And we drank tea. And just when the tea was finished, Muniraji went, and he snapped his fingers, and she became Babaji. And she went into a trance. She went into a trance. And Babaji was speaking through her. Babaji's voice was speaking to her. She never even went in the temple. It's just somebody who answered an ad to go on a spiritual trip to the Himalayas. And Babaji and Muniraji designed this temple. Babaji said it had to be the mother's temple. You asked yesterday. It had to be the mother's temple. He said it had to be this kind of design. I don't, Alok was writing, I think there was an architect or some other person there that was drawing on the paper what Babaji was saying. And then at a certain point, Babaji said, Muniraji said, "Oh, everybody can ask Babaji a question before he goes." And everybody asked something. I don't even remember what I asked. And then he snapped his fingers. And she was this plump little girl, young lady, sorry, and kind of going, like, what happened?
What happened? Did I fall asleep?
And the whole discussion was this. And that Muniraji then knew what he wanted, what had to be done, what Babaji wanted.
About the temple here.
About Baka, about this property.
Crestone.
I think you had already got the property, or it was in deep discussions, or I don't,
Yes,
the timelines,
no,
but this was
right.
October of 84, right? September, October
It would have been October of 85.
84.
No, 85.
I think it was 85. But whichever.
He was first here in 85.
84.
Who was
But
first here?
anyways, whichever it
Muniraj.
was.
Yeah, Muniraj hadn't been here yet. This was the first Navaratri after Babaji
Oh, wow.
left his
Wow.
body.
Oh,
Even more magic.
right.
So that's only half of the story. Then everybody, you guys did it. You did all this incredible work. I don't know who designed the murti. I don't know if it was Muniraj or Sastriji, but I know it was Sastriji's murti maker. It was somebody that did things for Babaji.
So who did all the murtis?
And I had to go there regularly, every couple of months, every month or so, to check on it and stuff. And she had packed up in the box that you showed me the pictures there yesterday. And but I didn't have much to do with all of this. You guys did it. And then we came here, and it was kind of a bit of a strange moment. There was some rebirthing group that wanted to install their teacher as the Devi, and then there was some kerfuffle around the Babaji devotees here and us coming from India, and some of us were made to feel a little uncomfortable, like we were being heavy or something. But it was all, we were just doing what we did. We followed Babaji around, and we followed Muniraji around, and everything was in the best of intentions. And then we left here, and I met Jamna. I'll never forget, I walked into the temple here, the first time, I was with Muniraji. And Muniraji does not deviate from what he's doing, he does what he's doing. And I saw Jamna out of the side of and I left Muniraji and I walked over and said hello to Jamna. I could never forget that. And then went back. But when we left here, we had to go to Nebraska, to the Malmo ashram. And I believe Gayatri had organized a house in Santa Fe for Muniraji and Sastriji to have a couple of days rest. And everybody from here would go to Nebraska, and we would rest for a few days. So Sastriji was really old, and Muniraji, just to let them rest. And we went to Santa Fe. I think Gayatri was there, and I think it was her house, but I don't have a clear recollection. But Raghuvar Pujari, Kali was there, just like in that room, and Alok was there. And Alok was in a deep, deep, deep family crisis. His son had fallen in love with a Christian girl. And he was a Brahmin, and he was beside himself, trying to figure out what to do. And that's what stands out for me. And I had just seen Jamuna after 11 years. I had not, from when I asked Babaji if I could marry her 11 years earlier. And so we're sitting down in this house, we're resting, and Muniraji says, "Kharku, I want to meet that girl." I said, "What girl?" And he said, "That girl. I want to meet that girl." I said, "Oh, she was from Texas." Okay, see what I can do. And I went in we didn't have mobile phones in those days. I went through my address book.
Go a little closer, yeah. Go ahead.
And I found the name of the group leader, and I called her in Texas.
Kyle, her name was Kyle.
Kyla? Okay, so you can double check these stories, because this is, and I called her up and and we were talking, and I said, Muniraji wants to meet that girl, and I can't remember her name, I think it starts with an M, but I just can't remember her name. And she said, oh, she doesn't live in Texas anymore, she moved to Santa Fe.
I heard, yeah.
This is the God's honest truth. And she gives me the phone number, and while I'm calling the phone, I can hear the phone ring in the next house. She was next door. 5 minutes later, she was sitting there, and Muniraji said, Kharku, make some tea. And then after we drank tea, Muniraji snapped her fingers. This girl went into this trance space, and Muniraji was speaking. I don't remember. I was, personally myself, I was so overwhelmed by the whole experience, but also of reconnecting with Jamuna. It was like my dream came true. It was like something really incredible for me. And I remember Alok asking his question to Babaji about his son and the Christian, and Babaji gave this really beautiful answer to him and made him feel a little bit better. Muniraji had talked about all of this, and I don't remember, I don't have notes, I didn't take notes. I have a lot of notes from a lot of things, but I don't remember having notes. I just found all my notebooks. 14 years of notebooks. And then Kali asked something, and then at the end when I said, Kharku? And I looked to the girl, and Babaji said, I didn't even ask. He said, you can marry Jamuna, you can stay with Muniraji. Whatever you do, I love you the same.
So you need to tell that you had met Jamuna 11 years before.
So, yes.
In Harakan.
I met Jamuna 11 years earlier in Harakan, and I had just come back from one of those trips to Kathmandu that Babaji sent me on so regularly, and I met her. She was sitting outside Baba's room at the bench at the top of the stairs, and I talked to her for, 10, 15 minutes until Babaji's door opened, and then I ran down to tell Baba I was home, and I said, Babaji, I just met this girl, I want to marry her. And he hit me on the head and said, not now. And then as I was walking away, he said, that girl, he said to Sastraji in Hindi, that girl, everybody wants that girl. I'll never forget.
And so then 11 years later you met her.
I wrote letters to her for 11 years.
And the time was right.
Yeah.
So perhaps tomorrow she'll be at the satsang.
Yeah, she has a completely different version.
Hear the other side. It's the real truth.
Yeah.
But I wanted to tell it because it has really so powerful about how important this property is, that Babaji himself wanted it to be the Devi temple. And Malti, for those of you who don't know, Malti was one of Babaji's first Western disciples after Gora. And she wrote books about Babaji, and she had this really special, she was a very good writer and a very intellectual, German intellectual. She taught sacred dance. It was handed down in her family, some kind of European sacred dance. And she's still alive, she's 84, 85, lives in Germany. I visit her from time to time when I can. And she just wrote a book. You have to find it on her website. I ordered it, but I just realized it hasn't come. But she wrote a book, and it comes with some recordings of Babaji, and but the book is
This is the IMU?
no,
different
not IMU. After that, she wrote a book because shortly before Babaji took his samadhi, he gave a talk. I don't know if it's in the speech book, but she has it, and she sent me the copy of it, so I definitely have it, and we can check to see if it's in the speech book. But where he said, it's no longer the guru, now everything is Mahamaya, the great goddess. Put all of our attention and all of our focus on the goddess.
Mm-hmm.
And
so
people travel.
Shortly after.
People travel from around the world to come and sit with the goddess.
That's right.
And then they find out about Babaji and of course fall in love with Babaji. But first they come because of the goddess. It is the time of the Divine Mother and the Sacred Feminine, which hopefully will help our world.
And we are all so lucky to be here. And the prayers that we make here really do, they really do. It's like when a fire ceremony is like making homeopathy. It just, a little bit goes all over the world. The smoke goes everywhere. Our prayers go everywhere. So
It's very
I
nice.
had to start with that story. I had to start with that story.
Yes, because it's about the ashram.
Yeah.
This actually, this floor plan is the floor plan of the Chilianola temple.
Yeah.
That's what Muniraj told me when we were first talking. He says, build it like Chilianola. So the floor plan is same. Only instead of a big murti of Harakan Baba that's in Chilianola, this is near Raniket in India. We have the life-size murti of the Divine Mother.
So beware and don't belittle women when you see them only 5 feet tall.
So there is a kind of a theme that that strikes me in this, and that is the kind of the both the timelessness and the fullness or the effulgence of the space that Babaji presented to us. Maybe there's another way to say that, but this the sense of the sacred that gives life to everything is full of everything, all wisdom. So you know, Muniraj is sitting next door and he says, "Oh, let's get that woman from next door over here." It's like that. The space has got all of that, right? And so a couple of short stories occur to me about that. So in Harakan, it was, you know, maybe late '83. I was sitting in the garden, and I was next to Babaji. Not too many. I couldn't remember any people around actually, and Kimananji, the supervisor for all the construction.
Yeah, Kimanan.
So Kimanan shows up, and he's all shaved, all in clean clothes, and you know, bathed and ready for darshan. So he makes darshan and leaves. And then maybe 10 minutes later, Kimanan comes back and he's unshaved in his work clothes without a bath. So in that space, in this, should we call it the cosmic soup, Baba's soup? Baba's space. It's like, it's a space beyond time and space. And you know, the avatar reality is that, and in some places to play with it. But all playful as a way of showing and revealing. So that was one of this kind of cosmic soup that was, you know, touching me. And then after Baba's Samadhi, my calling was to come back to the West. And I came here, then I went to a Christian seminary and I was ordained as a minister. And so I was appointed to a big downtown church in Tacoma, Washington. And it was the first Methodist church downtown. So this is old, you know, very big old building, one of the most beautiful spots in the Pacific Northwest. And I'm sitting there the first year, and I've got my feet up on the desk, and I'm thinking, how is this going to? It was something of a declining congregation, and I was kind of starting to build things up. And I'm sitting there in my office, in kind of the sense of prayer to Babaji. It's like, okay, what's going to happen here? What can happen? And I get this very clear, I'm going to burn this down. And I'm thinking, dude. And it was like, okay, Bali Baba Ki Jai. So it was a complex story, but some years later, there was an earthquake in Tacoma. Part of the building fell down. We discovered that the building actually was not salvageable and not architecturally safe for families. But during the interim, we had pimped up the value of this building from $100,000 to $6 million. So the building, we have to sell the building, and it's torn down. But we sold it for $6 million. Sold the property for $6 million. So it's also a caution. It's like that space is always working on us, and in some ways it breaks in on us. Sometimes we're blind to it, and I for one, it's like I never actually. I'm less sure now. In any time in my life that I know what's going on. So, but it's, I mean, one of the big themes I think in all these Babaji stories is the incredible gift of Baba as an avatar showing us that which he lives in, that which the avatar lives in. And this is a place of blessing, and the story.
Presence.
The presence. Yeah, it's the presence. But like the story we heard this morning, it's always striking to me how this ancient lineage is so artful and poetic in talking about the interplay between the seen and the unseen, and how the sacramental quality of the puja and the sacramental quality. So that name came in the reading this morning. That sacrament. So that in the Judeo-Christian, we have a very clear that the sacrament is a outward and physical manifestation of an inward and unseen grace, or an outer and visible sign of an inward and spiritual grace. So it's that sense of how deeply grounded in sacrament this tradition is, of always knowing that the only place of hope for us comes from the unseen, comes from the presence. Yeah. So anyway.
There's something in the presence. There's something that we were talking about this last night, and today in the story, and now right again.
Speak up just a little bit.
Just thinking about what does it mean to be present, to actually be present. It's every couple's lament, right? That one person is not present enough in the, or not at the same time, And I think that one of the main things that Babaji tried to teach us throughout the entire time I was able to be with him was that to be present. Hoshar, Saftan, Sri Mahaprabhuji Padarahe. Wake up, pay attention. You're in the presence of the divinity, and we live in that presence, and we forget. And when you live in that presence, then these miraculous things happen, because you're connected to something that we should all always be connected to, and we spend our lives being busy with everything else, and then we make time to come here, and we always make more time, but many people never make any time to be in the presence. I think that was like an essential part of what Babaji tried to teach us, the way he put all of us together, the way he put all the opposites together, the way it was always like just this big drama, because it was never about that. I have to tell now, I was asked another question about when Muniraji had his operation before he died. Muniraji had heart failure and had to have a pacemaker installed. And I'm not a doctor, but my sense was, one of the things that I took out of this, because it was the second time that it happened that Muniraji just slowed down so much that he just started to cease to exist. And the first time he didn't get a pacemaker, but he recovered. And the second time he got this pacemaker. And I started to think, wow, if you have a heart attack, it's because we're too aggressive and never in the presence. We're working too hard, pushing ourselves too hard. And when we're depressed, when we're lonely, we can go into heart failure. And I felt Muniraji, he was all alone. He had a few of us around him who really felt what he was doing, and lots of devotees, but I think he felt without Babaji, and there was a lot of pressure from the Samaj and people attacking him from every way, and he lost Ganga. And I think personally, as a confession, I think I caused both of his heart failures by speaking to him unconsciously on the telephone. Because both times he had heart failure, it was on the telephone with me. I really learned a lot. I mean, anyway, when Muniraji got taken from Chilianola, I was on the phone with him, and it happened. And I had told him that one of his closest disciples had just been given a terminal diagnosis and was going to die very soon. And he collapsed, listening to me. I could have said it more gently.
Was that Ganga?
It's Ganga. I'm sorry?
Maybe he took it on himself.
He also took it, of course, he also took it on himself. But you have to learn your own lessons also. You know, and there was a lesson for me. Anyway, he was taken all the way to Delhi and had an emergency surgery, and I was on the airplane, so I arrived from Thailand. I arrived in Bangkok while he was in the operating theater. I couldn't get there before. And I was there with him. When he came out of the operating theater, he was in the ICU, and then they put him in this room. And I was sitting, I wasn't allowed to see him yet, but I was just standing in the hallway, and I could see him, you know, get wheeled in and everything. And he had a surgery by the most famous heart surgeon in India, who was really one of those can-do guys he was perfect, and knew he was perfect. And in the morning, I sat up the whole night in the hospital, and in the morning, Arvind came, and you know, Arvind's a doctor, and he had the way to, you know, so he and the doctor went into the room. I was still outside, and you could hear the doctor yelling in the room. I didn't know about what, and then some nurses came and people came, and then this whole kerfuffle happened and everything, and then the doctor, really angry, he walked out and he was mumbling and angry and upset. And it turns out that what the doctor was saying was that he's perfect. And after he implanted the pacemaker, he bandaged Muniraji up himself. He didn't leave it to the nurses to do. He did it himself, and it was perfect. And when he came in the morning to have his first look, there was a bunch of like old lungis and stuff tied around Muniraji's chest. And he called all the hospital staff in and dressed everybody down, and no one was allowed in the room, and who came in the room, and who did this to him, and how did this happen? And Muniraji still hadn't really fully woken up yet. Anyway, Arvind came out, and he didn't speak to me, but he went on, and after some time they let me in the room, and then I stayed with Muniraji for those 8 months until he passed. And after about a week, I have notes on this. I have really extensive notes on this. After about a week, Muniraji said, "Kharku, do you know what happened? Babaji came. The doctor never got to operate on me. Babaji did it." He said, "Babaji did it. He made me climb down into this, like into a well. And I had to go down and down and down into this dark, dark well. And Babaji was all the time just in front of me going, come on, you have to do it. You have to do it yourself. You know, you heal yourself. You know, you have to effort. And they got down to the bottom, and then they walked through this series of caves, and from one cave to another cave room, and Babaji just kept, a little more Muniraji, a little more Muniraji. And Babaji just kept making me walk, and I was so tired, and I had no energy, and Babaji just kept making me walk from this one to that one, to this one to that one. And then finally, we were in a room, and there was water. They were sitting in the water. And then there was a door, and when Babaji said, I have to open the door, and I have to walk out into the light. And with great effort, Muniraji opened the door and walked out into the light. And then Babaji wrapped him up with the bandages. He said, now you're okay. And then the doctor came in. So,
Great story. Lovely.
of course, Muniraji was on. The doctor did operate on him. He did also have a pacemaker. That also happened, but in his consciousness, in his presence, he was something completely different happened, and Babaji made him fight for his life.
Yeah.
You know, and there's always this wonderful story about Babaji that if you fell down in front of him, he would just walk past you. But if you were lifting yourself up, he would run over and grab you and help you. If you were making the effort, then he would come and he would. But if you didn't make the effort, he just didn't see you. He just walked right past you.
Yeah.
You know, it was a common story that you heard amongst the devotees all the time in different situations, played out again and again. This kind of thing. And yeah.
So that's why the doctors found the
And
lilies
so,
wrapped
so
around him.
the doctor actually found Muniraji wrapped up not in hospital bandages, but in like he had been operated on out on the street, you know.
In a cave in their lives.
Two realities at one time.
At the same time.
Yeah, this is
And
the nature of our world.
we cannot, you know, I often think that one of the things that we learned, one of the things that we should or hopefully can learn, is that we live in a multiplex of reality. And, you know, we often complain, oh, I don't like that person, he's rigid, he only sees black and white. Or, we have these ways of categorizing and judging people. And I thought what Babaji always taught us was to be really flexible, because he changed everything every day, or all the time. You know, that we could never take anything for granted, and he made us become kind of flexible. And then when you read scripture and you hear people on the spiritual path talking about, no, everything's not real, it's all an illusion, there's only some ultimate reality, which is also kind of true, but it doesn't, Muniraji always drilled into me, this reality is true, also, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought the flexibility is to be able to be in this reality and still be open to something bigger, to be able to see, like there's gamma rays and ultraviolet rays, and there's all these there's 7 or 8 different kinds of rays that we have machines that can detect, but we don't see them with our eyes. And then every once in a while, the mystic comes by, or a circus person, somebody who's got a talent, and he can see one of those things that we can't see, you know. And that's, we just always have to be open and not be rigid in our belief system. Not be rigid in our belief system, but try to stay in the presence and realize we live in the middle of a miracle.
And realize what?
We live in the middle of a miracle. It's a constant evolving, you know, we can focus on the politics, and we can focus on the banks, and we can focus on the wars, we can focus on all those things, but they're always happening, they're always going on. This is real, right? And we want to be here, we want to carry this
remember
energy.
sitting in the kitchen having some satsang with some Indian devotees, and I happened to mention, it's like, oh, it was a miracle. And he looked at me and said, no, Ramloti, it wasn't a miracle. It's the way life is, just like you were saying.
It's life.
It's only because we forget, or I forget, that Baba, the divine, has to sort of hit me over the head with something that seems really fantastic. But the fact is that, like you said, when we're living in that space, it's the natural reality that we live our life, we do our work, we stumble, we fall, we have hard times, we have good times, But the reality is that there's a huge divine presence everywhere
Always.
that's always taking care of us. So.
And the sense is that we are that. We are the divine manifesting as divine's own expression of love and the good word escapes me at the moment, but in this, there's such a clarity in this tradition that everything emerges out of Brahman. Everything, all of us. So all of us are aspects of Brahman. And all of us are somehow the outworking of this mystery that we don't have full access to, but we see glimpses of the power of it and the mystery, and in some ways, everything happening all at once, all the time, because it's a part of who we are. And maybe we could say that the blessing of the Navaratris twice a year are like, getting inoculated, getting a world virus shot twice a year. They last about 6 months, and you get it. It's like, but the words don't kind of escape me at the moment. But you get. It's like we're participating all the time, but in the Navaratris, because of the massive depth of the ritual, that sacramental quality of life bounces through us and around the world. So that's you're talking about this all the time. We're not here just for ourselves. We're not just kind of here for a Navaratri party. No, this is the sacred work. We're allowing the sacred to work through us as we had the privilege of making these beautiful pujas.
That's right.
And the meaning making the deep meaning making for the human on the planet is that we let that sacralization flow out to all of creation, all the trees, all the plants. In the Judeo-Christian tradition, it's just like, Jesus says, no, if I don't go to Jerusalem, all the rocks will cry out. So that sense of the animation of life that is present in all of us. Anyway, what do you think?
I think that's it. Babaji said, he said, Navaratri is the place to charge your battery. You come to Navaratri, you have 9 days of this intense moment, and it charges your battery until the next Navaratri. It was like medicines. We used that as the idea of how we would make programs at Kamalaya. It's the idea that we built everything around these 9-day ideas of getting people 9 days for transformation. But on top of that, Navaratri is an astrological event. That's why it's done by the lunar calendar and not by the solar calendar, because it's a certain configuration of how the Navgraha, how the planets are sitting in the heavens. And there are moments when they're more conducive to certain things than other moments. Like this is going to be one of the most powerful Navaratris of our lifetimes, according to what the Vedic astrologers are saying. This is this is a change of an era, like out of Kali Yuga into a kind of Dwarpa Yuga for a few years before it comes back, or I don't know. There's different groups of astrologers in India who see it in different ways, but this is like civilizational change moment, like the world that we've known and been used to. We've already been feeling it crumbling, but now it will over the next few years will completely change the world. that we know.
Oh, it also says in the Devi Bhagavatam that these transition periods, particularly here we're winter going into springtime.
Yes, harvest festivals.
And also in the fall, the fall weather going into winter, is a very strong time for us also personally, our health, and that it's a time when yama is very prevalent and takes people a lot in at death time or illness, and that another reason to come together in prayer and devotion and sharing this energy is for our own also sake, as well as, like you said, the whole cosmos.
Yes.
It strikes me, does any of this tease a question from anybody here, anybody else here? We're kind of in a field, and I'm just wondering if anything is coming up for somebody else.
I have a question, just more.
Can you wait a second? She can come close so she can capture your voice.
Yeah, I have a question for Kharku. It's actually just coming back to more of the present, not so cosmic actually, but the question is, you were being sent to Nepal by Babaji early on. What kind of missions were you on at that time?
I got sent to Nepal to give messages to some of Babaji's devotees who he had sent to Nepal previously that were doing some Tibetan Buddhist retreats, and telling them the time to come back. And he asked me to meet a great Tibetan Rinpoche called, I've just been talking about him all morning.
Yeah.
I was having one of those moments. Oh my God. I studied with him for more than almost 50 years. Excuse me, but he'll come because he's so present in my life. This very great Tibetan yogi who was one of the Dalai Lama's teachers, and Babaji wanted me to meet him, and he took me on a yatra in Nepal. And Babaji had me stay with one of his devotees, and the first mission was he told me to get a new idea, to get an idea. And while I was there in the Kathmandu, it was so beautiful and everything, I designed the Om Namah Shivaya bracelet that so many of us wear. And I made it and gave it to Babaji as a gift. And then he sent me back to Nepal to become a businessman and make those as a business, and that's how they got spread around the world. And then as I was traveling around the world so much at that time, because of then the business, I was in the ashram and around the world, and then he had me meet some different saints from different countries and give messages. There's some incredible exchanges of messages between Babaji and I'm not going to have one of these moments. I can't remember anybody's name.
You're right.
Holy smokes!
You
Holy
told
smokes!
one story about meeting Baba Haridas.
Baba Haridas, I had a very profound experience with Baba Haridas, and
But that was here in California, huh?
that was here. That was in California. That was in California.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in Colorado.
I think it brings up an interesting point about Babaji telling us, go and learn from the wise. It wasn't like he was trying to build his, his kingdom.
Yeah.
He was like, no, this Buddhist teacher
Yeah.
has great wisdom. You go study with them as well.
Oh,
Actually, I felt
no,
like Baba was always deflecting all of his miracles too.
I would love to address that, because Babaji said, I heard him say these things more than once, that his mission is short and he doesn't have time, and that we have to go to the wise and learn. Like we couldn't do hatha yoga at Kamalaya. At Harakan. And there were certain things that there just wasn't time for it, because his mission was to instill in us this energy that he wanted to give us. But he said several times, and it's in the speech book also, go to the wise and learn. Babaji I don't think he was trying to create a worldwide cult that was exclusive of everything else. He was 100% inclusive of every way we can believe in things that are positive.
Yeah.
Not the negative ones, but all
Yeah.
the positive.
And when Muni Raj named this ashram the Hedikana Universal Ashram, I asked him later, why did you name it that? He said, because I knew people from all around the world would be coming here. And I feel that our kitchen table, I call it, or
Yeah.
is just a place of continual satsang.
Yeah.
Of course, we were having it today, but also with the people who are doing work around the world in all kinds of areas of service. And that was Baba's main teaching, and we were talking about that last night, to be good human beings.
And to participate.
And participate and serve humanity.
Babaji did not. It's really important to Harakan was jungle, was a tiny little village. And Babaji showed up, and he worked from morning till night every single day for 14 years, and left us Harakan that could accommodate 600 people, with 9 temples on one side and 2 temples on the other side, and farmland and gardens. You know, we built that with our hands. We built the Fakirabad. We built walls and filled it in, and we built that land. The Gufa side, we dug it out with our hands. We never weren't building and creating. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be, when I got here and I said, oh, they haven't done anything since I was here last time, I apologize. It's just that sense of that Babaji worked every single day. And I know many of our brothers and sisters in some places really, they're not doing that. You know, like, what are we doing? What are we doing as a family? I mean, we're feeding ourselves and we're having these Navaratris. It's good what we're doing, but what more could we be doing? That's why I built Kamalaya. It was my protest. You know, that I couldn't encourage any of the ashrams to like jump into something, and because we're all like, we're just taking care of ourselves was enough, and yet Babaji's mission was he never stopped. He never ever stopped.
There's an echo of that in my own journey. I built churches. I physically built churches. I'd walk into a situation and they had plans or something and didn't happen, and I said, oh, we can do this. So I was like, but there's another, I mean, so this sense of Baba's karma yoga, I mean, I just, yeah, a huge blessing in my life. But there's a little funny story about Baba's being present in all the teachers that we go to at a level of depth that we can draw the milk from. So when I left Harakan, I kind of did a goodbye tour of India, and I wanted to go down and see Sai Baba, also a very famous saint during that time. So I was with John, the painter. So John and I, we get up in the morning. In Sai Baba's thing, you're walking in kind of a big field, and you get up in lines, and Sai Baba comes by. Totally different than Harakan's thing. So we get up, walk in the door, and I look down, and Sai Baba's coming out, and I see Babaji.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you go to teachers, and that's my darshan. So you're not going for reasons of just intellectual curiosity. You're going to try to get the milk of wisdom that I represent. And one of the things that I mean, it's like, one of my imaginal ideas is that before I went to Harakan, before I met Babaji, I had this big experience. I was looking around in bookstores. There was nothing about these journeys, the spiritual journey we're on. Bookstores full of Bibles and, stuff. I mean, when I came back from Harakan, I mean, we have all these teachers flooding in. And so it's part of my imagination that this was the Shakti effect of an avatar of Babaji's magnitude hitting the planet and seeding all of these teachers. Now, that may not work for other people, but it was like, I was like, wow, all these non-dual teachers, arising and impacting hundreds of people. I studied with Adyashanti for a while, and you go in, and it was like Adyashanti Church, filled with, just, amazingly, ordinary people. But pretty profound. Anyway, that's just kind of my,
Oh, lucky you.
a sense that the planet got hooked into something that we're seeing, now, that big initiation going on. And the fact that we are living through it is incredible.
It's a very big initiation that we're going through.
Yeah.
I have a question. The other night you made a comment about Babaji saying that he couldn't teach people spirituality until they learned how to be human. Did he ever elaborate or any cues of...
I think that was a big part of his message. If you
Yeah.
read it, the speech books, again and again, he talks about humanity.
humanism or something, like I'd never heard that word.
And it was just a very powerful, I mean, he said it many, many times, but that time that he said it to me, it was just a really powerful moment of, just become human.
Could you repeat it? Maybe you could repeat it.
Yeah, so I realized when I said it the other night, and just since I have this moment, I'm not sure if it was 84 or 85.
For what?
About the story with that I told first.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
I'd heard that before.
I was so busy and worked so hard.
Yeah.
I prepared every Navaratri, right? So it could have been
Yeah.
85.
Sure. And it doesn't really matter.
So I just
Yeah.
wanted to say that so that it's said. And when I spoke the other night, I remembered I mixed two stories together. But Babaji said to me, Kharku, everybody wants to be spiritual, and I'm trying to teach you how to be human. If you become human, then I'll teach you how to be spiritual. And imagine what it means to be human. Just to be able to be kind to each other, that we serve each other, that we take care of each other, that we're aware of each other, that we are respectful to our planet. Not just green or just vegan or just this or that, but just that we actually learn to love each other, that we actually, that Indian concept that when you meet another person, you have to assume it's God, you're meeting God first. Now, and to get to that point, in India, in a traditional Indian school for spirituality, not for the Western, but for Indian people, if you wanted to study meditation, you would learn pranayama for a year before you would learn any meditation techniques. Just learn to control your breath. We don't know how to control anything. I mean, I'm not speaking specifically to us because we're trying to learn some of those things, but,
I find we do a lot of wanting to know and a lot of learning, but not a lot of doing.
we've had in this world, the last 80 years have been the most, in our world, the world that we've lived in, have been the most abundant and empowering world that the world has ever known in all the history of humanity, the history that we know. There's never been any time like the time that we've lived in, and it's made us a little bit lazy, and and a little bit entitled, and a little bit, we make easy assumptions. We simplify things down to sound bites, and people know a little about a lot of things, or else a lot about only one thing, which is can be equally problematic. And so I think that's so profound, and I always tell people, people ask me what I'm doing, I'm trying to become human, and I really mean it. Everyone I know, I learn something from. I try to learn something, I take something home. I've learned so much just in these couple of days coming here. Every time, everywhere I go, I'm constantly picking up new stuff.
And that is an ongoing part of this ashram.
Yeah.
Thousands of people come here. And I was saying the other day that I was watching Gohari in Harakan because now the road to Harkon is more available and many people come. And he sits with each one. And that's what we do our best to do here, you know, is sit with each person and find out their gift, find out who they are, and also often what they're trying to find.
Yeah.
Just giving them an ear and a presence and a love. And I really love this teaching of humanity.
And in that, you know, Babaji's insistence that we become human, I often find myself telling people, Babaji was the most human being I ever met. He was so completely embodied, so thoroughly present to people, and so playfully wise and wonderfully caring and compassionate, and also looking out that those who came as students were assured that he was paying attention to them as individuals. So this was not a school with one curriculum. This was a school of massive depth curriculum for every one person, and his humanity touched everybody separately in ways that met where they were. And so it's just really something to, I think, for me to take in that we all are seeking that deep human chord in ourselves out of which can radiate God's light. And Babaji was totally that. It's quite, I mean, it was just, you should see him, playing with the village Matajis.
Oh, with Muniraji's mother. Oh.
And the laughter and the telling of those dirty stories. I mean, it just went on and on. Yeah. And you know, rich people show up, and you know, he would anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he was superhuman.
Superhuman.
He was super what?
Superhuman.
Superhuman, super divine.
Yeah.
Yeah, same one.
Yeah. Please, Sashi.
Yes, I have a, because as all of you have met Babaji, did Babaji ever talk about the dreams?
Did Babaji ever talk about his dreams?
No, dreams, anything you all, because I have a very strong dreams of Babaji.
Yeah.
And I have never met him. And, but I've known him so well because he comes in my dream. Even he came in December, and so strongly while you were just sharing this playfulness of Babaji.
Yeah.
And because I somehow I feel when I do, you know, selfless service for some time, he gets pleased with me. And the dream, so 2 months I was taking care of my mom, and was taking care of the temple as I destroyed the old house and built the new facility where I don't have no connection. I live here, but I just for Babaji. Sometime I have in my dream, as soon as he built the temple, he will come, he will take care of himself. Every time I say, I don't have to worry for anything, because he is the one, when he's guiding through, then he will take care why I should worry. But I came back, and he came in a dream where I lost my father, and in the dream I'm seeing my father is sitting, I'm giving him a letter to my father and saying this letter came from the Babaji. And my father opened this letter, and suddenly Babaji appeared there, and he's like very playful, laughing, and he held my hand, and he's saying, you wanted to tell your father I'm an old Heda Khan Baba or new Heda Khan Baba? And and then he started laughing so loudly, and because I have a old Hela Khan Baba statue and then temple. The first dream he came, he came as a old Hela Khan Baba, and he's laughing and he start, sitting on the floor, and he was just like a rolling and laughing like such a loud. And I have this experience of he's holding the left hand like so tightly, and I have never seen something so beautiful, like he's just laughing, and I don't know all this what that mean is. And the very first dream I have, Babaji, I don't know, I never came in this temple as well. And some friend of mine came to this ashram. He took the Gaura Devi's book, the Fire of Transformation, and he left that book on my, kitchen countertop. And we were going for skiing, and I took that book with me, but that time I had my whole family, 2 kids, a dogs, and we were in Copper Mountain. I don't have no place, so I took the sleeping bag and put the book, I read the few pages and just under my pillow. And that night, the very first time, I had a dream, some yogi opening his arm, and he's just saying, chant Om Namah Shivaya. That's it. And the morning, as I woke up, it was snowy and we were all skiing, and I could not, because as I say Om Namah Shivaya, there's just something was coming within me that's very deep, and I could not ski. And I told Bipin, I have to go to this Crestone ashram. And he said, are you crazy? You have 2 daughters, the dog, the family. I said, no, I have to go. Something was within me that was just, and kind of my husband, we called Ramloti. She said, the arti finishes at 7, and we all in the, left the children there. I, Bipin, and brought my younger daughter, and by 7 a.m. the last part of the arti was going on, and I was here, and shared the dream with Ramloti. She showed in the big hall one of the old TV with one of the video of Babaji. And after that, for a month, I have several dreams of Babaji, and within 15 days after that dream, my family decided I should go to India. I take care of too much family, I'm very committed wife. And I was with Muniraji in the Hera Khan ashram. And then I reached to I have this mala of this kind of mala in my hand. The first time I made a pranam to Samadhi, the whole mala have broke all the beads on the Samadhi. And and there's another very strong dream came that I never forget. There was a queue of the people. They were holding like, how in the Farsa Baba hold this tool, the Farsa. And so the people were standing in the line, and I'm also in the line very fearful because they were slaying the heads of the people. And with that farsa, and I'm standing that line with the fear, that next turn is going to be mine as well. And this Babaji again came, and he took me out from that, and he went and he jumped on the riverside, and I have the whole view of the Hera Khan never seen before, and he took me there, and I just don't know who. I just wanted to share with all you met Babaji who.
It's incredible.
Thank you, Sashi.
Babaji said to me once, he was sending me off somewhere, and I was asking him about a dream. I don't remember what the dream was, but I was asking Babaji about a dream, and he said, he didn't answer me about that dream, but he said, if I come in your dreams, it's not a dream, it's darshan.
Sweet, huh? Yeah.
Thank you.
Beyond time and space.
Well, and I think so many, if, I can only speak for myself, how special it was to be with Babaji and sit with him and touch his feet. But I've met so many people like you, Sash, and others, who have had so many experiences with the dream darshan and are so connected, you know, and I don't think it's different. I mean, I think we're all devotees of Babaji who have had these rich experiences. Some of us don't remember as well, but sometimes they also come in the dream. Like he said, you don't dream of me, I come to you. I come in your dreams.
Yeah.
For a purpose and for darshan. I mean, from your dream, Sash, you built this beautiful temple and outside of Ottawa in India. Huge, beautiful.
He guided the place.
Yeah.
It was the
What's up?
whole month he was coming every day in my dream. And I don't know anything, but that time I was so stupid. Now I think I was so stupid. He was coming to me. I never asked me to reveal himself, or I should be with him. This is the thing I should have asked him.
You were so lucky because he came to you every day.
But I was so crazy. I was wanted to know, to meet all the who was with Babaji. This was like, but he guided me which place to build the temple, and it's such a. I called my father. I said, this is the dream I had. I want to build the temple. My brother said, I don't have money. If you want to spend, let's do it. My father said, okay, I'll give the land. He chosen the space even where the temple been. And everybody, and I was working in the real estate, so in my account I have $6,000. And I said 6,000 would be good enough in India to build that small place. But he planned so well, he connected everybody, and chosen the perfect person. My brother, who was a lawyer, he said for all the management for him. My father for the land. Then he brought the Bipin and he said, no, when you build this place we are building, we build the best one. Let's put together. And like Babaji guided everybody to do that place. But the funniest thing is that when in the June 16, the inauguration by the temple, and I have no knowledge of the Babaji whole Samaj, to how to invite, what to do. I have never done something like that. I'm just raising the family here. My brother meets in a train to the Shastriji, what's his name? Not the Vinod, the other Shastriji, Mayapati Shastriji. Look at the chances. He meets the Shastriji and he's saying, my sister is building the temple, Hedakan temple. He said, Hedakan? I will come. And this temple, I did not, I was asking my brother, you know how many Babas are in India? And the Shastriji with the Gulab Chand Sarma, who is from Jaipur, Babaji's devotee, they both came, they inaugurated the whole temple ceremony. This is like something completely miracle, no connection with Heda Khan. Nobody knows. They met in the train and they both came, and all 3 days they have the whole ceremony.
It's almost 3, maybe we reconvene tomorrow.
So I think we'll reconvene again tomorrow afternoon for some more satsang. And everyone is welcome. Like I said, everybody is Baba's child that are here. We've all had miraculous experience. So bring your questions, bring your stories, and we'll have more time together in this sacred space of satsang, which is the sharing of our deep truths. So, Bole Baba Ki Jai. Thank you.
Bole Baba Ki Jai. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Lovely. Thank you, Sakshi.